All right, here I am live. I'll have to wait just a second till YouTube catches up so I can mute it. Da, 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 da. Oh, it's really waiting. There we go. Alrighty. Got everything all set up and going here. Yeah, I got a new thing. It's a thing that I wanted for quite a while, and I lucked out and found one because they're not real common. But I'll show you that in just a minute or so. Some of the other stuff that I found this week that was pretty cool, found it at the same place. Decided last Friday that I would go for a little ride. It was actually a halfway decent day for a change. And, went out made a little trip around, went up through Weyerhaeuser. And I've mentioned Gene's used furniture and antiques before. If it exists, Gene's probably got it, but odds of finding it ain't real good. But I decided to make a little trip past Gene's place there because I don't get that way all that often. And sure enough, he had some very nice stuff that I really needed. Anyway, I also got out yesterday, did my usual going around to the secondhand stores, did my grocery shopping, all my running and such. And I came across this. You can see there it was $6.99, but pink tags were half off, so it was $3.50 for that. That is a Magnolite square skillet. Wagner Ware Magnolite, you can see. The real reason why I wanted it, though, was for the lid, because, let me move these around a little bit. It ain't the greatest shape. It'd polish up nice and clean, but the handle is on this side here, got a chunk out of it, a little bit loose, but that'd probably tighten up. But that's a aluminum Wagner one. I should do a little bit on some of the aluminum Wagner Ware stuff. I got a few pieces, and Wagner's been making cast aluminum, pretty much as long as they've been making cast iron. But I got that, but I really bought it for the lid because I was hoping the lid would be a proper fit for my Wagner Ware square skillet. Nice cast iron square skillet, but it's a little bit big. It doesn't really fit on it perfectly. You can hold up there, you can see the lid for that aluminum one's just a little bit bigger than the cast iron one, but it can be used on that for sure. So, $3.50, it was worthwhile. It would have been nice, it would have been a perfect fit, but such is life, I guess. I like that square skillet. Those are pretty cool. But let me get that set aside, because I got a whole bunch of stuff over here, a bunch of big stuff. And I also stopped off at the hardware store, had to get a little bit of hardware, and found some of these. That is an under cabinet coat hook. What I needed was a swag hook, those little hooks you screw in the ceiling to hang lights off of, or plant hangers, stuff like that. And I got one of them, but I came across these and I figured I'd give them a try. And I got one. I'll show you that once we get over onto the stove. And it works out pretty nice, but they come with nice little brass screws, which are pretty much useless for hanging cast iron. You're going to have to get something a little more substantial, 2.5, 3-inch screw to go through the sheetrock in your ceiling, and you want to make sure that you screw it into a joist. But this works out really nice. They're like $3 for two of them. They're fairly cheap, and I'm sure most hardware stores would have them. I got it at Menards, actually. But yeah, that's real nice for hanging cast iron from your ceiling. If you wanted to hang some pans right by your stove or over an island in your kitchen, a few of them would work pretty nice because you can hang two skillets on the same thing. What else? Gene's. The stuff I found at Gene's. I got one of these. That is a nice little gate marked flat bottom pot, Dutch oven type of thing. You can see it's got a AP on the bottom. That's the only real mark on it, other than kind of a little blobby 4 there on the tab. But that's pretty nice. It wasn't cracked or nothing. It's a little crusty inside yet. I stripped it off, got all the buildup off the outside. But that's a nice little kettle. That'll be good for something. But I think I'll wait until it's warm enough outside that I can set up my electrolysis tank and use that to get most of the rust off the inside. It's going to be a little bit pitted, but it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, the bottom, you can see there's a few pits in there, but a lot of these gate mark stuff had a bit of casting flaws to them anyway. You can kind of see right up in through here. That's not pitting, that's actual little waves in the iron, because the gate mark is where the entrance to the mold was. That's where they poured the iron in, and the air got out at the same time. And what would happen is it would kind of cool the edge of the iron as it flowed down into the rest of the mold. So you get a bit of a cold spot with hot iron flowing in next to it. It wouldn't necessarily flow together perfectly. So pretty much every gate mark skillet, kettle, Dutch oven, whatever you find, is going to have these little flow marks in them. But anyway, set that aside. That's a nice little deal. I also got, put that over there, something that isn't exactly cookware related, but something that I really wanted to find, something similar. I found me, get the cord out of the way. That's still in the way. Put over, that's a little bit better. I found me a nice winch. Even better, instead of just having a straight flat drum on it, it's got a capstan type of drum on it. And what I need that for is my well pump, because I have tons of iron in my water, and down in the well it tends to turn into a real fine, rusty, silty muck, and it'll eat well pumps after 5, 6, 7 years. So I'm fairly constantly pulling the damn well pump up. And I wanted something like this because I can build a stand, and I have a rope tied to the pump so I can pull that up with a rope. But with this, I can wrap 2 or 3 wraps, well, 3 or 4 wraps around it. And as you crank it up, it'll pull the rope up, but you can also, the extra rope will come off of the spool, because you're not going to get, 100 feet of rope wrapped around that. And it's pretty good shape. What I'm going to do is I'll take it apart, and you can see where these axles go through there. I'm going to drill holes in the top and put grease zerks in there so that I can grease the axles up, clean it up good, build a stand for it, and it should work pretty slick for pulling the well pump or for pulling up anything else. I got to do a little bit of fixing on the handle, kind of reinvent that a bit. But the other nice thing is it just slides off, and all of the ends of the axles, I could put it on there anywhere. I could put it directly on the drum, or I could put it here and gear it down, because there's about 30 feet of water in the well. It's 100 foot deep, and there's about 30 feet of water in there at most times. So when you pull the pump up, for the first 30 feet, you're lifting that entire column of water, and it takes a bit of, pull it up, let it wait, let it drain back down, because the pump isn't that much smaller than the well casing. So the first 20, 25 feet are pretty hard work to get it up. But with something like this, it'll come out a lot easier. And once I got it out of the water, I could put the handle right directly on the drum and just crank it up and go a lot faster with it. So it'll be pretty slick. Now, let me get my camera back down here where I was, more or less. Let's see, that's pretty good. The thing that I was really looking for, I got all 3 of these at Gene's, $50 for the lot, for the winch, for that Dutch oven, and for this thing. What is that, you say? That is a cast iron broiler for using on a wood stove. You can see that's a Wagner, patent applied for. They made these from 1915 up to about 1940, but this was before 1924, because it's an early one that was patent applied for. Later on, they started putting a catalog number on it, and they started the catalog numbers in 1924. So this is before 1924 anyway. And you can see that it's actually open inside there. It's got these little grill bars in there, and you put that on your cook stove, and you can use that for broiling steaks, pork chops, chicken, whatever you want to broil over the stove. And I'm going to do that a little bit later on here once I get closer to the end of the show, so because I want to eat when I'm done and the steaks are still nice and warm. But like I said, as you can see, it's open in between these bars, and what it'll do is these are kind of concave, and it'll channel any grease or fat that renders off from the fat in the meat, and then it gets into this little channel around the outside, which is really handy. It's got a little pour spout there. You can see the pour spout, so you can pour it off when you're done. And what's really handy is, as it builds up on the outside, you can use that juices and fat to baste the meat with. It works out slick. I used this a couple of times already. I got it cleaned up and all broke in. And I really like this thing. This is really neat. They do make, they call them grill pans. They're like a cast iron pan, basically a skillet that has a series of holes in the bottom. And you would use those on a grill. You wouldn't necessarily do meat in it. It'd be kind of redundant having a pan with holes in it when you're already cooking on a grill. But if you want to make something like, fried potatoes or something like that on your grill, get a little bit of the smoke flavor through it. They work really slick for that. But like I said, I wanted one of these for a long time, and finally found one. Got lucky and got it pretty cheap. There's different styles of these. They've been making these, pretty much as long as they've been making wood cook stoves like that. Some of them have a more open deal where it's just kind of, a lattice of bars with open spaces in between them. And I showed you, in fact, I could probably show you that again quick. Some of them were just a single thing like this, and some of them had two pieces, one on top of the other, so you could flip it over like you would with a waffle iron. Let me see if I can find that quick, if it's going to be easy to find. I showed you that thing in this old Majestic catalog reprint I got, where it's a combination deal with there it is. It's a combination deal. It's got a frame like a base on a waffle iron that you would take both eyes and the little spacer piece out of the middle, set that over it, and it had both a waffle iron and a broiler. It also had a lid. So anyway, you would put that all on there and flip it over as you go. And what you would do is you would shut off the draft to the stove, and you put that lid that it was made out of tin. You put that tin cover over it, and it had holes in it so that the draft of the stove would draw down through those holes, and you wouldn't get smoke in your kitchen or smoke from whatever it was you were broiling. It worked pretty slick. Something like that, if you found one, I bet you'd pay a fortune for it. If it had all the pieces to it, especially it still had the tin cover to it. But I've seen these for sale before, and ones like this usually go for anywhere from $80 on up, depending. Griswold made some that were like this, and they also made some that were a two-piece deal that had a part that went over the top so you could flip the whole thing instead of just flipping the steaks. Those go for quite a bit more, and there's a few other brands that were made by stove makers. Those go for a couple hundred a lot of times. But I was tickled to death to get this, my winch, and that little Dutch oven for $50. So that was a hell of a good deal. Anyway, let me back up here and see what is going on in the comments. You want one of those? Yeah, if you can find one, it's definitely worthwhile. Like I said, I'll wait a little bit longer here, and I'll go over there and make a couple of steaks on it. Show you how it works. Who all we got here tonight? We got 6 drops, and always nice to see you. Corey Clark, Cast Iron Restorer. Mike Newby, Julie Glanton. Well, too bad you can't stay around for the whole video. Hopefully you get to see at least a little bit of this thing in action. Darla Allred. Corey Clark already said hi. Pink Pearl. Fred Revels. Prairie Queen. Honey Badger. Honey J Badger. Lucked out today as well. Got a Pie Logo Wagner. Yeah, I've got a little number 3 Pi logo Wagner, and those are real popular. I mean, that's a lot of people try and get a hold of them. Then go for good money. Usually, I mean, that little number 3, those usually sell for 80 to $100 a piece, which is a lot for a small skillet. Usually, something that size sells for 25, $30. But there's a lot of demand for them, and they only made them for a few years. They're not really exactly sure when, but they figure, maybe 1930 for a couple, 3 years either side of that. Let's see. What do you like cooking best in your square skillet? Those are handy for eggs, actually, because it's easy to get your spatula in there underneath of them. I gave one of those away. It was a Lodge, nice little Lodge. I forget who got that. Me and you, Acres. Good to see you. Yeah, Menards is the toy store. Menards and Farm and Fleet. Do a lot of stuff at Farm and Fleet. That's where I get my dog food usually. Mark Harper, getting a little warmer in Ohio. Not around here yet. I mean, for the last couple of days, it's been cold and rainy, just barely above freezing. But it's supposed to get decent this weekend, finally start getting something a little bit. 8 pounds per gallon, maybe. Oh, that's water. Water, I think, is right around 8 pounds a gallon. Not sure what we were talking about then. Fred Rebels. Yeah, you want one of those? Yeah. I'm sure they probably got something. There's some Canadian manufacturer that made that. And I would bet, they're a big stove maker too. The name escapes me. They're a Canadian company that made stoves and did a lot of cast iron hollowware. They probably made something like that. Great find. Finally found one. Yeah, tickled to death. Brenda, 1971. Yeah, broiler's badass. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's really fun to play with. You'll see here once we get to cooking on it. I got my steaks over there. They're all ready to go, except I got to salt them yet because I peppered them. You want to make sure they're as dry as can be before you put them on. And the salt would draw moisture out of them, so I haven't salted them yet. But other than that, they're ready to go. Lodge has a similar new ones that go for about $50. You mean the broiler pan? They have broiler pans that are a skillet that have raised bars in the middle or on the bottom, but they're not open like this. They don't have they're not meant for being used over an open fire. They don't have the openings in them. And I think is that what you're talking about, Corey? And there's a lot of companies that made them and still do. North Shore Preparedness, good to see you. Patricia, North Dakota cowgirl. Found a number 10 Griswold muffin pan today. That's cool. Yeah, I got a Griswold muffin pan, and I think it's imported. It's a blue enamel. It's a real pretty blue, and it's got little white speckles on it. And those are pretty cool too. And I think they made a few other things like that with that blue speckled enamel. Howard, good to see you, Howard. You put an offer on a wood stove like mine? Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, as long as the firebox is sound and the throat where the flue is good, you can usually use them. Pi logos are made from 1924 to 34. Yeah, they would have to be after 24 because they have a catalog number on them, but they're not exactly sure. There's no real records of when they were made, but it's sometime in that time frame. But it wasn't more than most people think. It was about 3 or 4 years only 3 or 4 years that they actually made them, but it was somewhere within that time slot. Do I have a recipe for lye bath for cleaning cast iron? Yeah, it's a 1 pound container of lye crystals, 100% lye crystals for every 5 gallons of water. And, that's it. I mean, you can go bigger or smaller from there. If you want to make 10 gallons, you'd use 2 pounds of lye, or, cut it back as you need it. Make sure you use cold water when you mix it up. And it helps if you take one of those slotted cat litter scoops and pour it through that and then into the water, because a lot of times the lye will kind of clump up inside the container, and you don't want to go dropping chunks in and splashing stuff back on yourself when you're mixing it up. Lye does produce heat when it dissolves in water, but it's not so much that with a 1 pound and 5 gallons of cold water, it isn't going to heat it up enough to melt plastic. It doesn't really heat it up very much at all with that much water. So just sprinkle it over. Don't dump it all in one pile in the middle. Sprinkle it all over evenly and let it dissolve, and it won't be a problem. It won't melt. I do mine in plastic tubs, and it won't be a problem. But if you just dumped it all in one spot right in the middle, that could heat up enough to cause problems. So don't do that. Totally want to see that pan in use. Yeah, you will here pretty soon. It's just about time. I figured I'd do it in the second half of the show, the last half hour. It takes about, these are a little bit thinner than the steaks I did before, so these will probably take maybe 10-15 minutes. And, they won't be totally cold by the time we get done with the show. But yeah, it's going to be, you'll like this. This is a pretty neat little thing to have. In fact, I'm going to check on my fire quick. I got my fire going. Got fairly hot, fast little fire going. Take this with me. And it should be in pretty good shape. Yeah. A little too fast with fire. Burned down a little bit more than I wanted it to, but it'll catch up in a few minutes. Get that. That's why I split that wood there down pretty small so that it burns fast. And I'll get some flames because I want a little bit of flame underneath it instead of just doing it over just coals. But it burned down a little bit more than I really wanted it to before I started. And in fact, I'll slide that over, get it warming up some. And I got that and that. Okay. I'm all ready to go. And as soon as the fire gets caught back up to where it needs to be, we'll go ahead and make some steaks on that. Got a couple nice little pieces of sirloin. Got a sirloin tip roast, which was a lot cheaper than any of the steaks that they had. Wasn't too bad of a price. It was $6.50 a pound. It's higher than it used to be, but it isn't too far out of line. A lot of the pre-cut steaks, pretty much everything you want, pretty much any of the steaks are going for around $7.50 to $10 a pound for most anything. So, a good bit cheaper if you buy a roast and cut your own steaks out of it. It used to be this time of year, you could get whole sirloins real cheap, like a 15-20 pound whole sirloin. And you could cut them up into steaks because, starting about the 1st of April or so on into early May, the butchers, the meat packers would like to clear out a lot of their bigger cuts. and they put things like whole sirloin, whole round on sale so that they could make room for the for the barbecuing steaks. Most of your more hamburger, more of the cuts that are popular for grilling. But I haven't seen that in a couple 3 years. So it's and it used to be real cheap. I mean, you get it for $2.50, $3 a pound. For a 20-pound chunk of meat, and you could cut a ton of steaks out of it. But even so, it's still something you can, if you can find something like that at a decent price, you're usually better off buying a whole roast or like a whole pork loin. You can usually find those fairly cheap on sale too nowadays. And just cut pork chops out of a whole pork loin. You just slice across it. I mean, it couldn't be simpler. Make them as thick or as thin as you want them. And you got boneless pork chops. And the same thing with steaks, a whole round or a whole sirloin or something like that. You usually save a lot of money doing it that way. And it's not all that difficult. Once you get the hang of it and you see which way the grain is running, you can definitely save a lot of money doing that. Sirloin steaks with salt and pepper. Yep, that's what they are. Bought a whole prime strip loin on sale for $2.50. Yeah. I mean, the whole loins like that. For prime rib, getting the whole prime rib, or a whole loin. Those are always were expensive. A lot more so nowadays. But still, it's going to be a lot cheaper than getting that much poundage of pre-cut steaks if you get a whole strip like that. Beef tenderloin was $71 a kilo here. Yeah, that's pretty steep. Well, that'd be $35 a pound. Yeah. Let's see, I didn't really look at the tenderloins, but I think I had New York strips that were going for like $12 a pound. They usually got pretty good prices on the meat at our local grocery store. I wonder how a nice piece of salmon would be on that. Probably be real good. I haven't done them yet, but I got some pork chops I want to try on there. And you could do pork chops, chicken. Like I say, a nice salmon steak would be real good on this. Didn't realize folks cleaning and restoring cast iron hollowware. Yeah, I mean it's got to be. I mean, it's a fun hobby. I mean, the restoring it is actually most of the fun, really. Cleaning things up, and you get mystery pans that got so much buildup on them you can't really tell what they are exactly. Sometimes you get a pretty good idea. Based on the different things, different. You can see the number on the handle. A lot of times you can kind of tell what it is, or the shape of the handle, or the general shape of the pan, and you get a rough idea, but there's so much stuff on it you can't tell exactly what it is. And I mean, sometimes it can be a pleasant surprise. You can find out you got something that's pretty scarce. I've got a couple of skillets, that I bought just on a chance. I could tell it was an old skillet, something from before about 1920, but no idea what it was. And they turned out to be pretty cool. I got a artistic logo Erie skillet, which is pretty sought after. I mean, they only made them for about a year. I think it was 1907 was the only year they made those. Paid $25 for it, and it's worth about $300 now that it's all cleaned up and ready to go. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. If you know somebody that raises cows, it's cheaper to buy a cow than it is to buy a steak. The live price for livestock is nowhere near what they're beating you for on the retail of it. It always was, but the last couple of years, the spread between an on the hoof cow and what you would pay for a piece of that cow has gotten just insane. The farm price of cattle has hardly changed really in the last few years, in spite of the huge raise in meat prices. Made that mozzarella recipe I posted. It came out good. Yeah, great. That powdered milk mozzarella. Remember the good old days when Dave Thomas from Wendy's would bid on the cows at the state fair? Talk about when burgers were the best. Yeah, I have to make another pizza with it. Okay, I think my fire should be pretty much good. I'll check on that. And I'll get the light turned on and camera spun around. Oh yeah, we're doing good. Just a couple more bits. And we should be underway. I'm going to cover this up so you don't get vertigo when I spin you around. Get my camera turned. Move my microphone around to where you can still hear me cooking by the stove. That should be a good enough spot for that. Turn my light on. There we go. Yeah, there's one of them hooks in action up there, that double hook. And you can hang two, swing my mic out of my way. You can hang two skillets face to face with it. And it works pretty good. But anyway, let's see, get you down here where you can see the cooking going on down on the stove. Grab my stylish welding and cooking hat so I don't sweat in my eyes standing over my hot stove. Grab the steaks, salt them a little bit. Okay. Make sure I'm not getting in my own way. Move the mic back closer. There we go. And we'll get this shindig dug. Like I said, I wanted a fairly hot, fast fire. So I want a little bit of flame to get underneath there. I'm going to damper that back down. We'll get that heated up. And once it's hot, I'm going to brush it with a little bit of melted butter to help keep things from sticking. And then throw the steaks on there. I got a couple of nice pieces of sirloin, all salted and peppered and ready to go. It's just a matter of giving that a minute to get hot. While it's doing that, check back here on the Honey Badger restored the skillet for the frat after the crud came off as a number 10 large logo. This nailed to the garage for years. Yeah, I mean, you could find, a lot of times at flea markets and stuff, especially the secondhand stores, you got stuff with so much buildup on it, they don't bother to clean it first. If you know what to look for, you can really make some good deals on stuff. Me and you Acre's going to share a little bit of the meat with North Shore Preparedness. That's always good. Yeah, fans rattling on the hook. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, it's heated up good. Give her a little brushing down. And I'll use a little bit of my extra butter here to baste them, to baste the steaks once they're a little closer to done. And let's see. Let her get just a little bit warmer. Give that just a little more air so she gets a bit hotter underneath there. Let's see. Yeah, that sounds good. Grab myself a clean plate. From here, it's just a matter of cooking them up. No, I didn't forget the salt. I salted them before I brought them over. So the oven is similar to high, medium, and low, depending on how close you're cooking to the fire. Yeah, if you're cooking on the stove top instead of right over the open flame like this, you can put a skillet right over the fire like this, but usually you have the eyes closed. And it's hottest right back in here where it goes out towards the chimney, and it's cooler over here where you're farther away from the firebox. So you just find where the hottest spots are on the stove, and you watch as you cook things just to see how everything's doing. And you got to turn things fairly frequently because it'll be a little bit warmer on one side or the other. There's a little bit of a knack to it, but it doesn't take too long to pick up on it. And once those sear good, they'll let go. Meat will always stick to cast iron when you first put it on, well, any protein, even eggs. But once it starts to cook a little bit and brown, it should let go. And then you flip it over and it won't really stick. Pretty much any pan will do that. If you try and flip over eggs too soon, you're going to end up breaking them up and they're going to end up sticking. But if you let them dry a bit, start to brown a little on the bottom, they'll release themselves. Oh yeah, fire's doing nice. Now I'm not going to get a whole lot of fat out of these. There's not much fat on them. But like I said, you can use the juices that cook out to baste them with, which is really nice. But I got that extra butter there too. Hit them with that. Peek at them. They shouldn't take too overly long. These aren't, the ones I was using before were really thick. But these are pretty thin. Give them just another minute or so on that side. I think I can flip them. Yep. I'll show you quick here. You can see the nice grill marks on them. Try to throttle my air down just a little bit. Dab them with a little butter. PTAP cooking with mud. Yep. Yeah, it would have been nice to find this a little bit sooner in the year, because I'm kind of at the point now where just about done using this for the season. It'll be another couple of weeks yet where it won't be so hot, but I don't really use this in the summertime. I could if I wanted to, but I'm also just about out of wood too for the year. So, how do I like those new Teflon basting brushes? Don't know. I don't have one. I've always used these natural bristle ones like that. There's the camera. And you can get in the paint department at your hardware store, you get those real cheap little chip brushes, they call them. And those work pretty slick for basting. So, yeah, I don't know. I've never really tried one. But I know what you're talking about. They got their little silicone brushes. Got little silicone nerts on them. Feel that. I can cook on the stove or outside. Yeah, you could, I suppose you could open the doors and the windows, but when it's, 90 degrees outside, you really don't want a fire going inside the house. But a lot of people in the old days would have a summer kitchen, basically a little lean-to built onto the house, and they would move the stove out into the kitchen, especially in the South where it's so ungodly hot all the time. So you wouldn't heat up the house. Soon time to get hardwoods for smoking outdoors. Yeah, I wish it would have had a little bit of cherry, because cherry I love that for smoking. And I use it on my grill and my smoker all the time. And cherry trees are pretty common around here, but I don't have any on hand at the moment. Sorry. Yeah, I have a regular, electric stove. You like how they don't singe the bristles and easier to clean up, but they seem to drip more. Yeah, they don't look like they're really absorbent, where natural bristles soak up pretty good. Let's see here. Flip this. Now you flip him over. Yeah, they feel like they're just about done too. I'll baste this side and give it maybe another minute. I think they'll be ready. I feel like they firmed up pretty good. I think we're good to go. So I will take them right off of there. Set it aside. Get him off the fire. And I'll have to move you back around. That's sitting there smoking a little bit. There's some of my pile iron. You can just see the end of that speckled blue muffin tin and a bunch of other stuff. Got a little pile of number 3s all seasoned up. Working on some of my huge backlog. Let me close you. And I will get my camera back where I need to be with it. Move my mic. And I think we're pretty good here. Yeah, I gotta turn that light off too. Hopefully I didn't overcook these. We'll see how they go. Get my mic moved back. Whoops. Do they make an actual grill insert for wood stoves? Yeah, that's basically what that is. There's also another style that's kind of like a shallow pan, and you see them, they call them sad iron heaters, where they're a solid bottom, but you would take both eyes and that centerpiece out over the firebox, and it would sit down lower, closer to the fire, and you'd use that for heating up sad irons, cast iron for ironing clothes. But they make some like that that had a slotted bottom too. Yeah, there's a lot of different variations on the on those. I showed you the picture of that one from the Majestic catalog where it's got a frame like a waffle iron and a waffle iron. Has both a waffle iron and the grill that you can flip over. Well, let's see here. I'll let those sit and rest a little bit longer. They feel like they're fairly done. I like mine medium rare, maybe up to medium. And I'd rather undercook them just a little bit than over, usually. Yeah, with a line of pink. Oak, decent for all around smoking. Yeah, I use a lot of oak in my. I have one of those. It's an older smoker grill. It has the firebox off on the side and big round, smoker chamber. And I usually just use wood in that, and I use mostly oak for firewood, so I've got oak for that. It works real nice. But like I said, cherry is really nice. I mean, cherry wood has a real nice smell to it, and the smoke, it picks up a real nice flavor to stuff you smoke with it. Back up a little bit here. What was I basting with? That was melted butter. I usually put a little bit of melted butter on it on the grill before I threw the steaks on, and then basted them with it. Yeah, you can get mesquite and hickory around here. You can get hickory chips, mesquite chips, wherever they sell barbecue grills. Haven't seen pecan, but I haven't really looked for it either. Craving a steak. Yeah, the steaks have been spendy. Like I said, I cut these out of a roast because it was a lot cheaper. Oh yeah, the dog had to come in and see what I was up to. Well, let's see. Did I cook these guys right? It could have been a little bit more done, but that's plenty good for me. And it tastes real good. I mean, that's as good as anything you get off a barbecue grill. There you go. Now quit bugging me. Of course, I'll just encourage it to bug me more. You can't really see how done it is there. But yeah, it's done just about perfectly. But yeah, that's definitely a worthwhile investment that I finally found that thing. I can't wait to try some like pork chops on it or do some chicken on it. That'd be really good too, like a grilled chicken. I finally found a Griswold waffle iron to go with your base. Needs cleaning, but $72 total investment. I'm happy. Yeah, because a waffle iron with a base, Griswold, most of them are going 125, $150 a piece. So you can put her together for less than that. You're ahead of the game. Yeah, the pup is eating better than Rev already. Yeah, you know, the silly dogs around here get fed pretty good. Pat Hirsch, good to see you. You're going to sit there and eyeball the camera and make everybody think your poor deprived dog needs something more to eat, ain't you? There you go. What type of pan did I use? You started watching late. Well, it's not really a pan. It was a broiler made for a wood stove. I'll have to set this. That winch is in my way. There we go. Those will stay put. I'll go grab it quick. Hopefully it's not too hot to handle yet. That's a broiler pan made for a cook stove. You can see it's got slots in there. That's a Wagner ware. I'm gonna grip hot grease on myself. That's a Wagner ware from before 1920 and or 1924. And yeah, like I said, that's a broiler pan for broiling meat on your wood cook stove. Yeah, local dog has never been fed an entire life, according to local dog. Yeah, that's about right. They forget real fast that you just fed them. But yeah, you wanted one. I wanted a broiler for the wood stove for a long time, and finally found one last week. Got her all cleaned up, and been using it ever since. Pat Hirsch is in the middle of cabin, and it's always a fun time of year. It wasn't so bad on dairy farms because they were usually spaced out a little bit more. But most people raising beef, yeah, I mean, you drop all the calves within about a month and a half, and it can get to be pretty overwhelming at times. You've got a whole bunch of cows having calves all at once, and they always do, just to make life more difficult for you. Like I said, you know, on dairy farms it wasn't quite as bad, but yeah, I was wondering, lambs, same thing. You know, you always have a whole herd of lambs all at one piece. But yeah, I'm just about done here. It's been 53 minutes. Yeah, it's, like I just said, lambs fast and furious. They all come at once. But anyhow, yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to eat my steaks. I had 10 in one day. Yeah, it's how it would work. 189 head all together. But anyway, yeah, it's the joys of farming. Anyhow, I'm going to eat my steaks. I'm going to say goodbye for now. Try and keep my dog away from the rest of it before it gets older, before I do. And I'll see you guys next week. Next week, I think I'll do another one of those little kind of looks around at stuff that on auction sites. Look a little bit more at Wagner ware items and any other oddities that I come across. You know, just to see what's out there. And, you know, like, subscribe, join the channel if you feel so inclined. And hope you guys have a nice week, and I'll see you all later. Where's my end button? There it is.